Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Rachel Ellenberger. I'm the Industry Engagement Manager for the North American Council for Freight Efficiency, and I am the moderator for the webinar today. Welcome to our sixth bootcamp session of the Run on Less Messy Metal series, and the third session for the battery electric vehicle unit. Next slide, please. So as always, I would like to take a moment to encourage you all to subscribe to ACT News, who provides all of the technical support to make this bootcamp series possible. ACT News is a great resource to keep up with the latest clean tech news from the commercial transportation industry. So if you are not currently a subscriber, you can use the link on your screen to subscribe. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, this is the sixth session of the overall bootcamp series and our third session for the battery electric vehicle unit. In 2 weeks, we'll be back here for our 2-hour workshop. And this workshop is structured a little differently. During the sessions, we hear from industry experts about their experiences, and we have the chance to ask them questions. During the workshop, attendees will have the opportunity to interact a little bit more closely with the NACV team and with each other. So you will receive an invitation from Stefan and ACT News to attend. Make sure that you accept that invitation and join on time so that we can guarantee your space. Next slide, please. And if that is not enough content, we also have a webinar that's coming up next week. Last fall, NACV released an industry survey about charging as a service with Electrata. And in March, we co-released a collaboration report detailing our process and the findings and our conclusions. So next week, we'll be hosting a conversation with one of the report's authors, Hyunsu Park, Ryan Monahan, who's the Director of Business Development for Electrata, and Scott Brower, who's the Vice President of Vehicle Supply, New Products, and Vehicle Applications at Penske. You can use the link on your screen to register. It's also going to be included in our newsletter that's coming out later this week and will also be on our social media. Next slide, please. And I'd like to now turn it over to our Executive Director, Mike Roth, with a quick update from the run. Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. And hey, join us in 2 weeks for that workshop on battery electric trucks. So it's going to be fun. This is a place where you can roll your sleeves up. We're going to be a lot more participative than we are able to do in the normal bootcamp sessions like we're going to have here in a few minutes. But join us. We're going to get into what we heard in the 3 bootcamp sessions and sort of explore that in a few different ways in 2 weeks. So when you get that email from Stefan, do join us. And if you can't come for the full 2 hours, you're more than welcome to come for a while and leave, or come in the middle. Who knows what we'll be doing when you come in, but we'll have some fun with it. Secondly, every time I give an update in these every 2 weeks, I say how much more excited I am about Run on Less Messy Metal. I think we're clearly delivering what we want to do with the run. I mean, that is help to answer some of the most pressing problems in the trucking industry and moving freight more sustainably. And I think right now and last week at ACT Expo, we certainly saw it, where there's a lot of solutions. I get asked all the time, Mike, is this going to get messier before it gets clearer? Hell, I don't know, but I left ACT Expo with maybe a few more thoughts and confusion than I went into it, although I got some answers in some other areas. So I'm just thrilled. And now we had all the fleets speak at our breakfast at ACT Expo, and they're all starting to talk about what truck they're running, why did they choose to have a battery truck or a biodiesel truck or a hydrogen truck or whatever, and a little bit about what their duty cycles are. And I'm happy to say that, they're going to put these trucks through the paces. I mean, this is, people call the run a competition. So if you're in a competition, you'd think you'd try to make your numbers look good by hauling lighter freight or other sort of things. Maybe do a duty cycle that's simple on flat ground or something. No, these fleets are bringing tough duty cycles. They know NACV is going to share a lot of the details around the duty cycles, and they don't want to do something easy. They want to do it hard. Lastly, I would say is right there's a QR code. There's also a button on our website. We've opened a store. People talk about our hats and our shirts that they see around the run. So people have suggested, how do I get those hats? And so rather than us try to carry them around and forget people or try to mail them and go through all that mess, we have a store that's open, and you can just go in there and order 1, 2, or 10 hats or whatever you want to do. And it's at our cost, so we're not trying to make any money off of you, but we've got that opened up. So feel free to take advantage of that. So back to you, Rachel, and I'm excited to hear from these great experts on what we're talking about here today in infrastructure.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks so much, Mike. If we could go to the next slide, I just have a quick few bits of housekeeping to review before we introduce the panel. So first, I would like to thank this session sponsor, Terawatt, who is also a speaker on today's session. So thank you, Terawatt, for your support to ensure that we can continue to provide programs like this to our audience. Next slide, please. Make sure that you head to the landing page for this session on runonless.com to take the quiz. Our speakers have sent in some A+ questions about the topics that we're covering today. Once you successfully complete that quiz, you can provide your contact information to us so you can be entered in a drawing to win some Messy Middle swag. If you get it 100%, you'll see the Google form to provide this information. So make sure that you take the quiz right after the session today. Next slide, please. Our final reminders, this session is being recorded. It will be available online later this week. If you did not get a chance to submit a question on the registration form, but you would like to do so, your Q&A controls are in the top right-hand corner of your screen. During the Q&A, I will be relaying your questions to our speakers. And then finally, Stefan Babcock with ACT News is here with us today to help troubleshoot any problems that you might have. His email address is here on the screen, so be sure to reach out if you're having any difficulties. And with that, we can go ahead and get started on our next slide. I'd like to introduce you to today's panels. Thank you so much to our panelists for being here. Our first presentation today will be from Tom Perlin, who's the Corporate Capacity Manager for C.H. Robinson. Tom, thank you so much. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel, for having me today. The team here asked me to be on this call to give a voice of the 3PL when it comes to the EV marketplace. What is our current experience with EVs when it comes to integration, what challenges we're experiencing, and what has to happen for EVs to grow in the marketplace, both with 3PLs and beyond. I'm certainly not going to be the guy that answers any technical questions about EV charging and infrastructure, but what I'm hoping to do is shed light on conversations we've been having with our customers and carriers and what common themes have developed. A bit about me, I work for our corporate North American truckload division, with responsibilities around strategic engagement with our larger carrier base. I work a lot in understanding our larger carrier base's business and network needs and aligning carriers to contractual opportunities, drop trailer, true dedicated, power only, etc. Last summer, sustainability became a larger part of my role. And sustainability fits really nicely into what we call our committed asset team. Because you have to have a strategy around building out sustainable capacity solutions, whether that's for EVs or alternative fuels. 3PLs simply aren't going to be successful providing sustainable trucking solutions if you're trying to do so in a transactional brokerage environment. So a lot of my work centers around building out and understanding where our EV capacity lies, and then looking to align these carriers to business of our customers who have a focus on decarbonization. So this slide here, a little bit about C.H. Robinson, and then I'll dive into what we're doing about sustainability, and then I'll finish off later with a few slides around EVs and our experiences and what we feel needs to happen for the ZEV marketplace to really take off. As you can see on this slide, Robinson is a large player in the transportation industry, not only in North America, but globally. Our North American Surface Transit Division, or NAS as we call it, is our biggest division, but we're also a leading freight forwarder. We're a multimodal company, and I highlighted a few things in here in regards to revenue and the number of customers and carriers we do business with to give an idea of our size and scale. One call out on this slide is the drop trailer growth. We're very close to our drop trailer business being over $1 billion service line, which when you think of a broker, you don't necessarily think drop trailer, but a lot of work has gone into changing that sentiment and aggressively targeting this marketplace with strong partnerships, our trailer leasing program, and customer trust that C.H. Robinson can show up like a large asset. Drop trailer also plays really, really, really well with EV freight, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. If you could move to the next slide. So I won't talk through every bullet here. I'll just provide color around a few. This is more in regards to sustainability and what we're doing at Robinson. In 2023, we're proud to announce that we reached our emissions intensity goal 2 years early. C.H. Robinson has reduced its scope 1 and 2 emissions by 47% in 2023, when our goal was to reduce by 40% by 2025. We publicly report on our emissions, holding ourselves to a high standard on accurate and verifiable data. The middle part of this slide, I want to call out the consulting and optimization bullet with customers. Myself and our sustainability team, we do a large number of meetings and calls with our customers to both brainstorm ideas and optimize solutions. There are a number of customers in different phases of their sustainability journey, whether it's looking to convert freight to EVs right now, others exploring book and claim, and others just wanting to swap ideas. And since I've been in sustainability since last summer, the customer engagement, no doubt, has been the highlight for me. And then on the far right, with this slide, within the industry, we're making our presence known that we're all in on making a positive impact to our environment. We're partnering with a number of nonprofits, but nothing is bigger than us becoming a member of the consortium that's formed to electrify the I-10 corridor that's headed up by Terawatt and the Smart Freight Center. Next slide, please. If I could summarize this slide quickly, it's just overall more what Robinson is doing in regards to sustainability. We have a vested interest in sustainable solutions and partnering with our customers and the industry as a whole to drive these measures forward and doing it the right way. Next slide. Okay, so my last two slides are focused on the experiences as a 3PL with EVs overall. I have the why it's important for a 3PL, the how we've been successful already with EV integration, and then the what the challenges are that we're seeing. So starting left to right, frankly, sustainability has to be important to 3PLs because our customers are asking for it. In surveys and research that we've done, our biggest customers, the ones that have the most freight, have science-based reduction targets. Also, research that we're conducting shows that the economy is forecasted to grow in the coming years, and that's also coming with the projections of more and more ZEV vehicles being on the road, and OEMs increasing the percentage of EV trucks manufactured versus traditional trucks. And then the last bullet here is, of course, just being good stewards to the environment and our planet. The middle column here, integration success, where we've found the quickest and easiest onboard is when customers' supply chain and logistics teams and their sustainability teams are working in lockstep. They know what's going on and they can work together. And when that's happened, we've found some quick integration success to onboard new business. Second bullet, a customer having a sustainability budget for freight and scope 3. Like I said here, it's been helpful, not always necessary. We've had wins in this space where, again, it's much easier, where we've provided higher pricing from an EV perspective, but a sustainability team has come in and said, hey, we have a budget for that. We're able to pay a little bit more, which is great. But then there's also wins that we've had where we've been able to integrate EVs at almost cost parity to traditional diesel. So it's gone both ways, more helpful, but not always necessary. And then where we're seeing a lot of success in EV wins has been obviously short haul and port drayage. When I talk about short haul, I'm talking about OTR under 100 miles. Port drayage goes without saying. That's where we found the first wins. We've been expanding more into the short haul OTR. And then drop trailer freight, as I mentioned earlier, just works really, really well to reduce dwell time when drivers can show up at a shipper and a receiver and get in and out quickly. Challenges that we're experiencing, just not a lot of EV capacity out there. Part of that, and going into the second bullet, is finances and budget. We're in a recessionary freight market, and a lot of carriers are hesitant and don't frankly have the budget for the upfront costs to invest in EV trucks. Payload reduction, that's been a barrier that we've run into a few times where we've actually had to give back business because the EV trucks that we were using we were continuously having to cut pallets off some of the customers that we were doing business with. Charging times and infrastructure, I won't go too much into that as we have a couple infrastructure and charging companies speaking after me. And then just general education across the industry that goes internally at C.H. Robinson. We need to educate our sales and account management team, educate the carriers as well. Next slide, please. Last slide here, how do we grow? And my first bullet here, when I talk about increased legislation, what in a lot of conversations with carriers, until their feet are held to the fire and it's mandated that they need to have a certain percentage of EV trucks in their fleet, A lot of them are not going to do it. Lower upfront cost goes without saying. I kind of alluded to that. The fourth bullet, I think, is the most pressing. Is we need case studies, we need data, we need to be able to talk to carriers in the marketplace that are maybe hesitant to invest in EVs and buy EVs and insert them into their fleets, about like how this looks, how this is going to operate, what it does to their efficiency. So that's critical to add more capacity into the EV marketplace. And then the other bullet I'd highlight here is short term, is just customers having a budget around this that matches, customers saying that they want to get more green and more sustainability, and then actually backing that up with a budget and be willing in some cases to pay a little bit more for EV capacity. And I'm at time. I don't want Rachel to play me off with the Oscars music, so.
Thank you so much, Tom. This is great, and I will bring you back in for our Q&A. Next up, we have Alan Nielsen, who's the Vice President of Business Development at Greenlane. Alan, if you could come on camera and join us here. Thanks so much for taking the time to be here with us, and I will pass it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. It's great to be here, and so appreciative of the opportunity to speak along such great people. So we'll go to the next slide, and just a quick introduction and a little bit about who Greenlane is and where they're coming from. So in early part of 2023, Greenlane was formed, a joint venture between Daimler Trucks North America, NextEra Energy, and BlackRock. And together they put a fund together of $675 million to build out a nationwide network of public charging, as well as looking at H2 refueling stations for zero-emission commercial vehicles. So in late of 2023, they hired our fearless leader, Patrick McDonald King, who then built out our leadership team. And now we have up to 25 employees as of just recently at Greenlane now here in 2025. So we've been growing rapidly. And as you can see, we've got a deep expertise in zero emission vehicles and charging networks and utilities and energy. Next slide, please. So a couple of key wins that I just wanted to mention, and fun things just that have happened in the last year. So we recently opened our first station in Colton, California, which is located at the connection of the I-10 and 215 corridors. And I'll tell a little bit more about that story in slides to come. But another great win for us was we were one of 3 recipients that won the Super Truck grant from the Department of Energy. And our part of that was for megawatt charging along the I-15 corridor, $26 million to put towards our Barstow station to work with megawatt charging, as well as distribution energy resources to help with the utility load. So lots of fun stuff there, and we're excited for the future on those projects. Next slide. The next slide, I believe, is a short video that we wanted to just share that highlights how we're doing things at Greenlane. So if we'll play that video.
At Greenlane, we take a comprehensive approach to building charging infrastructure for medium and heavy-duty zero-emission vehicles. Our systems are designed to provide high-power EV charging while ensuring efficient load management and grid stability. Greenlane's unique capability to connect 3 core technologies will transform public charging on priority freight corridors. Our 400 kilowatt EVSEs are engineered to meet the high energy demands of commercial fleets today and designed to be easily upgraded to megawatt charging systems. By predicting charging loads using vehicle telematics, we can efficiently allocate energy to optimize charging times. Paired with our driver app and fleet manager portal, we help vehicles reach their destinations while maintaining overall stability. But the key to our technology is in how we manage site load in real time. Greenlane combines the real-time monitoring and control capabilities of a SCADA system with our AI-powered EMS to comply with utility LCMS. This approach allows us to dynamically allocate energy between EVSEs, solar, and battery storage to manage grid load and maintain site stability. By using distributed energy resources like solar panels and battery storage, we decrease reliance on the grid and provide redundancy at each site. Battery energy storage allows us to shift demand away from the grid during peak hours and leverage stored energy to handle fluctuations in supply and demand. With solar supplying carbon-free electricity during the day and BESS providing or storing power, We create a robust ecosystem that reduces the need for grid-based power while providing resilience against outages. This comprehensive approach will help reduce grid strain, maintain site reliability, and improve freight operations. GreenLane isn't just building charging stations. We're advancing clean energy infrastructure to keep America moving, one charge at a time.
All right, next slide. Thank you. What a great video. A big shout out to my marketing department. We probably could end my presentation there, but we won't. So we will move on to our next slide. And one thing that, as we mentioned, we really were on a mission to build out a public charging corridor. We realized that there's a lot of benefits in depots and behind the fence charging, but we knew that really that alone could not create the solution needed for many of the fleets that would be moving into the zero emission market. And so we really wanted to close those gaps. There were major barriers of adoption. As we know, the more the wheels are turning, the more money they're making, and the better the ROI and the TCO on their equipment. And so we wanted to enable that for those fleets that were making this move into the space. And so really we sought out to build stations 60 to 90 miles between each other on major freight corridors. As you can see, by the map, we've got some dots there that are outlining where really GreenLane has a big focus in the next couple of years. Of course, we'll focus across all of North America and especially the US, but starting a big focus with those major freight corridors in California. One question that we get a lot is why public charging now? And so just a couple things to highlight there is, public charging like GreenLane de-risks zero emission transitions for fleets, particularly with this the regulatory uncertainty. It's key to help fleets really dip their toes in the water and get moving. High power charging is available from day one, right? So you're not waiting for depots to be built. And really we're taking away that capital investment that's required by a lot of fleets that may choose to put something behind their fence. We'll have customer service 24/7. On-site staff and to really guide and support our drivers. And we know that key to this transition as well is driver support and their experience. And we want to make that better with our sites and stations. One other thing is, of course, charger redundancy and site resiliency is huge, and having the additional chargers on site and the resiliency to back up in case there's any challenges there. And really, we believe that over the long term, public charging should be cheaper than depots because of the infrastructure shared across so many more vehicles and higher utilization. So next slide. One way, that we made sure to focus on the right sites. We took a very data-driven approach to identify high traffic corridors where charging infrastructure is most critical. So this involves tapping into telematics data from Daimler Trucks North America, one of our trusted partners, and combined with valuable insights and customer data through our partnership with people like Uber Freight. So by integrating this intelligence into our site selection and development, we're ensuring that GreenLane stations are placed where they'll have the greatest impact on fleets transitioning to zero emission vehicles. Next slide. So of course, there are challenges, and we probably share these challenges with everyone here on this panel. Some of those major challenges that we have that we are overcoming, right, but they're there, is definitely site design, especially when we're working towards providing something for medium and heavy duty vehicles, making sure they have the right space, ingress, egress, to get trucks in and out safely, making sure drivers are safe. Permitting and approvals is always very complex and time consuming, as well as, just working that coordination with utilities and contractors and OEMs. And of course, one of the ones that we've heard for the last several years is power supply, how long it may take to get power into a site. Does there need to be line extensions, transformer upgrades, all that fun stuff all adds to kind of this complex challenge of building these out. And then of course, last but not least, cost management. I think the golden word that we heard at ACT last week was TCO. It's all about the total cost of ownership. And so we're definitely working to close those gaps there. Next slide. So very quickly, I know I'm running short on time, but I wanted to highlight a little bit our first location. We had a great grand opening just a few weeks ago. That first station that we have, our flagship spot, will have It does have 12 pull-through lanes that will accommodate truck and trailer with 400 kilowatt chargers, dual ports there. We've got 29 what we call bobtail chargers or medium duty spots with 180 kilowatt chargers, 30 passenger vehicles parking spaces. We know that there'll be drivers that start and end their day at Green Lane, and we want to make that very comfortable for them. We've got carports for shade, 24/7 security, and of course, you saw in the video all of the technology that went into place to make sure that we've got it set up for all the challenges we may face. And of course, we have future-proofed that for MCS upgrade. Next slide.
Just on these last ones, Alan, if we could move a little quick.
Yep, for sure. You know, we talked a lot about this in the video, talked about it as well, but you know, we want to make sure that we offer a best-in-class customer experience, you know, through technology for our fleets. You know, the big thing is we do have a driver app and fleet portal, as well as APIs that can feed it into the back end of telematics and dispatching systems, making sure that we're enabling the drivers that are using Green Lane the opportunity to make reservations up to 90 days in advance and have a very smooth experience getting in and out and making sure that uptime is where it needs to be. So we'll go next slide and kind of wrap things up here. So some key takeaways, right? We know it's going to take a village. We realize that total cost of ownership gap must be closed, and that has to be done really through private and public and private partnerships, with utilities being a big part of that planning stage, with freight and logistics company needing the right technology to electrify and make it a major win for them and for their customers. And we'll need collaboration across the board with everyone involved. And with that, the next slide, I think, kind of takes us to just we're here to help. Please let us know if we can help look at future sites and what we can do to help develop and tailor your charging solution. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Alan. We will bring you back for our Q&A. And next on our list is Andy Manos, who is the Director of EV Fleet Solutions for Prologis. Andy, thanks for joining us. I will hand it over to you.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to see everybody. Good morning, good afternoon. Thrilled to be here today to talk a little bit about EV charging infrastructure development, run through some case studies, primarily talk a little bit about charging as a service, and just keep moving forward. Congrats to our colleagues over at Green Lane on the opening of that site. It's super exciting to see something go live after you've been working so hard. So next slide, I'll give a little bit of overview about Prologis and Prologis Mobility. Prologis, you may or may not know, is a international REIT. It's the largest industrial REIT in the world. We own and operate over 1 billion square feet of real estate across the globe. So think warehouses, industrial outdoor storage spaces, yards, land, parking lots, all kinds of stuff. Prologis Mobility we started it about 4 years ago to serve the needs of customers in this space, understanding that real estate is a unique challenge, just getting a site in which to locate and develop this infrastructure for zero emissions logistics. So there's 3 primary ways in which we serve those markets. Workplace charging, so it's very standard charging for light duty vehicles with employees or small fleets. Depots, so that's what I'm going to be focusing on today, which is developing charging infrastructure behind the fence. So at a Prologis site, non-Prologis site, doesn't matter. Build that infrastructure and allow fleets that have been operating the same way for decades just to buy fuel. Instead of buying a gallon of diesel, gallon of gas, it's kilowatt hours of electricity, and away you go. And then the third part, hubs, large public shared charging infrastructure, multiple off-takers, multiple tenants, right? Public facing. So you've heard a little bit about that from some of the other folks on the panel, and we'll hear a little bit more. But moving on down to the next slide, I'd like to give a little overview of charging as a service for those who aren't familiar. So charging as a service, or CaaS, you may see it abbreviated. The whole idea, as I alluded to earlier, is that fleets have enough on their plates. Fleet operators, right? Used to be, hey, get our vehicles in the same way, get the same vehicles, we fuel them the same way. I can really focus on my operations, being as efficient as possible. With the introduction of new technology, zero emissions fleets in particular, you now have reporting, charger management, fueling management, sourcing hydrogen, sourcing natural gas, right? Construction, all of it, financing all of this. So the idea with charging as a service is to take all of that, bundle it back up into a fully managed service so that you can, at your depot or at a hub, simply buy fuel. So a fixed fee or a price per kilowatt hour. You don't have to worry about it. There's an uptime guarantee. If we click to the next slide, you'll see the real estate, the charger deployment, the utility engagement, the energy, the operations, all of that. You don't have to fool with it. It will be delivered to the vehicle at a price per unit consistently, right? That's the operating thesis. And what I'm going to talk through here on the next few slides are some case studies where we've seen a lot of success in that space. So if we could take a look here at the first one, which is a heavy duty case study, kind of run through some numbers. So this is a 2.5 megawatt high powered heavy duty charging depot in Los Angeles. We did this on behalf of performance team Maersk. And this was actually the very first project we developed. When I joined, it was just a couple people being like, we can do that, done this before. So worked with the utility, brought in 2.5 megawatts of service, charging, software, operations, everything bundled as a price per kilowatt hour. So that fleet's still operating. There's now a total of 5 other depots within the network, particular for this customer. And we've just hit over 10 million miles of fully electrified driving fueled from these depots. So very exciting. As I said, it was the first project. It came out of a little startup and then Greenlots and then Shell in here. And to get to this point where we're actually fueling heavy duty vehicles that are on the road doing work has been very exciting. So I'm going to click through these in the interest of time, but if you have any questions, obviously the Q&A period is open. The next slide, please. This next case study is a last mile, light medium duty depot for FedEx in Anaheim. This came online a couple months ago, full energization from the utility, and we're already at over 100,000 miles of electrified miles to date. So in total, this will be 200 level 2 overhead chargers. So we actually had to build a gantry and suspend the chargers from above to not interfere with the van operations at this facility, which is super cool. We've been developing that for a number of years. And yeah, it's moving. The service providers that are fueling at the site really enjoy it. I think it's a good fit for operations because these vehicles dwell overnight. So developed it. It's running over 100,000 miles in the last few months. Super excited to see this fleet continue to grow. And the next slide. Yard tractors. I'm sure many of y'all have these pieces of equipment in your fleets either as a primary part of the services that you provide or operate, or as secondary, right? It's a tool, it's a piece of off-road equipment you've got in the yard. The electrification of yard tractors has been an interesting use case, one, because they're uniquely suited to electrifying. It's heavy weights, low speeds, work all day. But with the advent of the indirect source rule in Southern California and potentially other markets, the generation of wear points, for those that aren't familiar, I won't take too much time because we'd be here all day, but the generation of credits to offset an obligation that program has implemented, yard tractors are extremely valuable. So the idea here is instead of just paying a fee or a tax on your operations, you can invest in those operations and create value in a secondary way. So not only is the price per kilowatt hour comparable with diesel, the vehicles are coming down in price, so we're driving towards that TCO if we're not there already, depending on your operations, but you can actually generate credits to remain in compliance or to offset a regulatory structure that may be impacting operations. So that one's pretty fun to look at. And again, any questions, please, I'm around during the QA and always available. On the next slide here, as we've developed projects, we've come across delays, be that permitting, utility, supply chain, tariffs, what have you. And so as a result, we've built a fleet of on-demand power solutions that will allow us to bring infrastructure to site, generate electricity, and charge vehicles. So what you see here is a 200 kilowatt natural gas microturbine running a DC fast charger In this case, it was one, served a fleet of about 4 heavy-duty trucks. We actually daisy-chained 5 of these together, so a megawatt, and ran that in Chicago for about a year while the site was under development all through the Chicago winter, which was a treat. But these are just examples of the kind of solutions that may be required, right? As you think through electrification or as you're expanding a network, you're in that messy kind of middle, like, oh gosh, I need to expand, I need to increase my range. And then the final slide I'll spend some time on here is the project that we built at Danker. So this is a 9 megawatt microgrid. If we could click to the next slide, thank you. Almost 196 DC fast charging ports. It's been operating for almost a year now, and love this project. It's really challenging technically. It is completely isolated from the grid, but we developed it in about 12 months. For a period there, it was the largest heavy-duty truck charging project. I think some of my esteemed colleagues may have seized that title in recent months. But yeah, we have a lot of experience doing this kind of stuff. There's no one clear way forward, but between a combination of depots, hubs, distributed energy resources, and all of the technology that's in the space, I feel confident that we're all going to grow together. So with that, I'll hand back to Rachel to wrap us up.
Thank you so much, Andy. This is great. And we will welcome our final panelist, who is Amelia Sibley. Amelia is the General Manager for Heavy Duty at Terawatt. Amelia, thanks so much for being here with us today and providing the anchor to our presentations. The floor is now yours.
You bet. Thank you, Rachel, and thanks everyone for joining. I am General Manager with Terawatt. Terawatt has been around for about 4 years now. We've raised $1 billion to develop charging networks and solutions for fleets. We serve both light duty and heavy duty. Our light duty customers include Waymo, so we build charging infrastructure for commercial fleets on the light duty side, including autonomous vehicle fleets, taxi and rideshare fleets, and of course on the heavy duty side, where it takes megawatts of power, high reliability, and technology solutions to bring those charging needs to the market. If you go to the next slide, why Terawatt was born is we looked at the challenge that fleets had in front of them to develop infrastructure themselves and realized this was an extremely challenging problem. You know, we don't expect fleets to develop their own private diesel fueling networks. We thought the same should be true on the electric vehicle side. The challenge of installing infrastructure grows exponentially as fleets expand from developing for cars or a couple level 2s to going to fast chargers and then ultra fast chargers for many fleets. It takes more time, more resources, and of course more capital. So we wanted to take this challenge off of fleets' hands. Next slide. Our hubs have become an easy button for fleets and across a range of use cases. So our sites are private but shared, and it gives fleets the ability to tap into a number of different reasons or use cases for offsite charging. The main one is often to avoid the CapEx, the upfront budget and costs required to build infrastructure is avoided by using offsite charging. If a fleet doesn't have their own yard or there isn't enough space at their yard, or if their facility is on a lease that's short term, or their landlord simply does not want to allow them to install infrastructure, it can be impossible to do it themselves. Many fleets lack the resource time, the people time to undertake the challenge. The intense coordination required across so many different parties, both in the upfront planning stage of the infrastructure and the installation stage, as well as the ongoing operation. You know, it takes quite a bit of resources to maintain high uptime of the chargers, to coordinate with the charger OEMs and the software companies and the vehicle companies. So outsourcing that to an offsite charging company can be a real boon for fleets. And then there are use cases that have more to do with getting more out of the vehicle, so top-up charging. Some of these vehicles, many of them don't have the range that fleets need to complete their duty cycles today. So accessing offsite charging to achieve range extension is a really powerful way to take advantage of offsite charging. And then temporary charging while waiting for a depot to be electrified is another use case, using our sites for several months while you're waiting for power at your own facility is another excellent use of offsite charging, as well as backup charging. If your chargers are having issues or you want some assurance that in the event of the power grid going down or some issue with your site, you have a second option. This is another reason that fleets come to Terawatt to use our charging stations. Next slide. We have taken all of this into account in designing and locating our sites. We are operating in a number of places now. Our first site also came online in Rancho Dominguez last month, and that's right north of the Port of Long Beach with 20 charging stalls, 10 of which are pull-throughs, and 10 are the bobtail format, all 350 kilowatts. So this is ultra-fast charging for fleets on the go. We have a pilot site in Vernon with 2 chargers, and then our third site, Rialto, will be online in July with another 18 pull-through chargers. Commerce will be forth in November. And so we are developing coverage across the Southern California area to enable fleets to do top-up charging or depot charging. We also have our interoperability lab, which is online, where we test vehicles against chargers with every OEM and ensure that the vehicle and charger works well together before fleets even arrive at our site. So that's a really important way to be proactively ensure that the vehicle will charge every time in a seamless way with no hiccups. We put a lot of investment into that. Next slide. And then in terms of how we've designed the experience for fleets, we really took into account what fleets were asking for with charging infrastructure. And a lot of them said no CapEx, no fixed payment. So we've designed it to be like an electric fuel, not an infrastructure charge. So you pay for the electric fuel that you use, pay on a per kilowatt hour basis for that. We, again, have very fast chargers, 350 kilowatt chargers, which is essentially the fastest that you can get today with CCS1, 350, 400 range, and of course pull-through stalls. So fleets can come with a tractor and trailer to our sites and top up charge during their shifts. We talked about our locations. That's essential. They have to be where fleets are operating. It can't be miles away. So we're right in the action of fleets congregating around intermodals, ports, and warehouse districts. And then the uptime piece, really critical for us, for fleets, to make sure that there's no issues when fleets show up at the site. There's no wait time with our reservation system. There's no risk to cargo, as we have very secure sites with gates, cameras, and fencing. And then, of course, the interoperability piece, again, across all heavy-duty and medium-duty models. Next slide. The reliability piece, again, I'll just stress, is so essential. I think this is something that we can't take for granted. It takes a lot of effort to make this go well and have a high uptime. And there's a cost to fleets if the uptime isn't there. We've listed some of the hidden costs here of fleets having downtime or needing to reroute drivers to a working charger, or drivers simply dissatisfied at showing up and having a broken charger experience. And here are the ways we're investing in that 98% uptime. So the interoperability lab, I mentioned that several times, is critical. We also have a network operations center that monitors chargers with our own proprietary software. So they have a bird's eye view across all chargers to ensure high performance. And we have a field service team that's licensed to be able to work on chargers with the raw data. So we do not need to call the charger OEM. We can fix it ourselves with our staff in-house and with the parts that we keep on site. We have very deliberate, specific charger procurement with high quality criteria and testing to make sure the chargers perform. And of course, our network of sites creates redundancy and resiliency. We allow fleets to utilize any of our sites in our network if they need to swap out where they're charging. Our continuous improvement culture is something that is hard to quantify, but it's also essential to making sure that there's a robust sense of, hey, if there's some way to improve, let's tackle that. So that's something we also bring to our company. Next slide. Here's a quick example I'm going to run through of how fleets can achieve range extension at our site. So next slide. And I see Rachel, so I'll go quick. This is an example of a fleet that starts at the port and then uses our Rialto Center to achieve range extension top-up charging to get a faster payback. So next slide. They start at the port with their 100% or start at their depot with 100% state of charge. They swing by the port to get their container. Next slide. Takes them till 75% state of charge where they drop off at the distribution center. Next slide. And then they head back to the port. They're now at about 50%. This is with the Volvo VNR example. Next slide. At this point, if they charge at their own depot with their 100 kilowatt behind the fence chargers, it would take them 3 hours, and that would cut right into the driver's hours of service time. So that's not a possibility. At this point, without offsite charging, they would have to end the driver shift here. Next slide. But with terawatts charging, they're able to add another load to it. So they get back to the distribution center where they have now 25% state of charge left. Next slide. They drop off their second container and top up at terawatts charging station. They can go from 25 to 55% state of charge in 45 minutes and then head back to their depot with 30% state of charge remaining. And next slide. At that point, they can either end the day with the depot and charge overnight, or next slide, they can slip seat charge at our Rancho Dominguez site and do a second driver shift. So offsite charging enables more miles driven, faster EV payback, and ultimately better economics for fleets. Thank you all very much. Happy to chat or follow up with anyone. Feel free to reach out to my email there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amelia. And if we could go to our next slide here, I'll call all of our speakers back for our Q&A. We have a couple of really good questions from our audience. So audience members, if you have a question, you have not sent it in yet, please use your Q&A controls, upper right-hand corner of your screen. I'll be checking those out. But the first question that I have, since we're talking about these hubs, that's fresh on our minds right now, one of our audience members asks, how does the cost to charge at the shared sites compare to on-site costs if the fleet invested their own? Does the math pencil out as a savings by using the shared depot?
I could give that a whirl, and of course, get happy to pass it around, but it's not necessarily something you can generalize about. It's very specific to each fleet. I think a lot of fleets underestimate the soft cost, so to speak, of installing it themselves, the people time, and what I call the brain damage cost of needing to coordinate across so many parties. A lot of fleets we spoke to at ACT Expo had just completed their first behind the fence depot installation and said, never again will we do that ourselves. So a lot of fleets go through it the first time in pursuit of better economics and then quickly realize that was a great one-time experience, but there are so many more efficient and easier ways to get access to charging. So I know that doesn't answer your specific question about the economics piece, but I want to just highlight some of the unforeseen costs of the depot that should be taken into account when any fleet is trying to compare offsite versus behind the fence charging.
So I may have some specifics. So we own and operate both and have a lot of miles across both categories. What I'll tell you is that a fleet depot with solid utilization, right, it's a primary site, you're in the 25 to 30 cents a kilowatt hour range for your infrastructure. And then energy, let's call it, you're in Southern California, 16 cents, right? So let's call that like 40 cents, 41 cents all in. Depots, hubs are not that far off as well. So the hubs we're operating are in that same range. The challenge is the utilization right? So I think, Amelia, to your point, right, if you're developing behind the fence yourself, you're putting in all the capital, you have to own and operate, you have to do all of it. There are a lot of hidden costs. If you engage with charging as a service and so it's someone else's problem and you're just buying at the pump, depending on the utilization of that site, they are comparable. But in terms of, fairly firm numbers, I'd call it 40 cents a kilowatt hour with electricity and charging as a service, all the infrastructure, maintenance, operations, yada, 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 at both depots and hubs. So they are comparable. Where you start to see movement is in your operations. If you have a fleet that dwells somewhere and that's just where they operate, right, or you have your own network you are developing, depots are important nodes. If you have different types of operations, or even within that, hubs are going to be critical. So different tools for different jobs, and it all is predicated on the use case. Specifically, dollars, not that far apart, interestingly, at least under charging as a service where you are not making the investment.
Anything else from our other panelists here? Those are great answers. Awesome. So the next question that I have, and I think each of you touched on it a little bit, we hear a lot about how there is a pretty massive bottleneck with utility lead times. And there's obviously pretty creative solutions out there to address this. I'm curious, with the utilities that you all have worked with at your various sites, what do you deem is the most important characteristic that a utility can have to make for a successful partnership with these types of projects?
Wow, that's a good question. I would say really speed in decision making, right? I think that's a bit of a challenge, is the bureaucracy that entails in a lot of the utilities, and just the time it takes for them to move the needle. So that's one of the big challenges. And so if we can find utilities working closer with us and communicating, when certain things are going to be done. Timelines are everything, right? And I feel that, I think we have found that utilities a lot of time are very hesitant to give timelines to us, which, does not help our construction process, and really, finding ways to open those sites up, and then with the adequate amount of power that we need to fulfill those that are utilizing the stations. So, we found that, leveraging some of the government officials and others can be very helpful in that. We were very lucky with Colton, where we were dealing directly with the Colton utility, and that may be a little bit easier than working with some of the bigger ones.
Yeah, I would echo that. Speed is absolutely an essential component here with utilities. I'd also say transparency. I think having to guess where the power is a challenge, and I think utilities are starting to do a better job of publicizing where, their grid capacity maps, and keeping those updated to help fleets and companies like us make decisions for the future. Those kind of tools are new and very helpful. Flexibility as well. It's challenging to plan a major charging infrastructure project 3 years ahead. And so being able to adjust plans is also useful as the market shifts. So a lot of features you wouldn't necessarily associate with utilities: transparency, flexibility, speed, but we are actually seeing utilities start to adapt to this new world that we're in, and it's really, really heartening, especially in Southern California. So excited to see that shift.
That's great. Another question that I have here, and this one, Tom, is specifically for you. So in your presentation, you included a list of how we get zero-emission vehicles to grow. On your list of bullet points, where do you see the most activity right now, and where do you see the least activity?
Most personally, from what we're seeing, and this is just at CH Robinson and with the sustainability team, I would say when I've highlighted short-term customer supply budgets around sustainability, just because that's where the bulk of my work is happening right now, is engagement with customers that have emissions reduction goals. And I've had a lot of meetings both with the supply chain team and trying to figure out, like, okay, hey, here's our plan, here's how we're going to do this. And then the sustainability team, which might have, different goals of just trying to brainstorm ideas. So that's where the bulk of what we've seen is the customer engagement, and just trying to figure out what the plan is, what the solution is for those customers, whether it's going to be start to immediately convert some freight that we're already moving, or maybe new freight that they're willing to switch over to an EV or an alternative fuel solution, and then figuring out how they're going to budget for that. Externally, I'd say from what Robinson's involved in, it's just planning, and a lot of this comes from the consortium that we're a part of that I mentioned with Terawatt, the I-10 Electrify. A lot of that is talking about doing case studies and how do we start to pull numbers and get data from EVs that are on the road already, to look at charge times, to look at efficiency and operations, and really a lot of talk about going a little bit further out, right? Like finding some trucks that are actually running EVs a little bit further out of the Southern California market, closer into Phoenix, and seeing what that data looks like.
Gotcha. That actually leads to the next question that I have here. We obviously see a lot of leadership in this space from California. In work that you all are doing, are there any other states beyond California that you're able to call out as a viable option for future infrastructure, future projects? Anything that's surprising in your research? Is there any look up into Canada? What does that look like for you guys?
If I may, so we build sites all across, North America and Europe. And what I think is very interesting is that the Northeast, if we're talking specifically like dense logistics areas, so we have some projects in New Jersey serving the Port of Newark that are trending very well. I mean, there's one that's operational, and we've got one fleet in there and a couple others coming to take a look. And what helps there is a relatively low cost of electricity, right? Can be managed. California has some of its challenges, as well as interesting real estate opportunities, right, to develop. There's not many people developing these types of projects up there. So in the Northeast, we have a project in Chicago near the rail yards, serving that drayage kind of community, that's going well. So I would look at kind of the whole cost stack and your operations, right? You'll know best, hey, where is my cost of labor reasonable, right? Where do I have enough volume? Where do I have enough off takers? And Tom, you kind of touched on this, like where you've got customers that may be interested in a zero emissions move, and is there a way to charge a premium or collaborate or co-locate infrastructure or share vehicles or shared charging, right? So I'll leave you with that. We've done a lot of work outside of California, Northeast, the Midwest, certainly around logistics hubs are interesting. Canada's fascinating. We have some opportunities in the West Coast in British Columbia, where there are federal and provincial incentives. They have stackable LCFS. There's a federal and a provincial one, right? So low carbon fuel credits that can be stacked, as well as grants and incentives that are relatively untapped and a fairly friendly environment for that type of work. So yes, and then Greater Toronto area is just an economic powerhouse. So lots of fleets, hydropower, which everybody loves, all that good stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's reactive now as fleets are electrifying, but I anticipate those being fast following markets behind California. We've certainly seen the first movers adopt already.
I would go ahead, Alan.
Sorry, I was just going to echo what Andy was saying. I mean, there's of course been a huge focus in California, and a lot of that had to do with ACT and ACF, and now with the removal of ACF, it really goes to the fleet focusing on where it makes the most sense from a complete, cost perspective, and stack on, where the trucks can drive efficiently, where the energy cost is low, where the property is low, the infrastructure. I mean, I know we're looking at locations as all of us are, across the U.S. and where that makes the most sense for fleets.
Yeah, there's a site in Queens where the vehicles drive. They'll operate an 8-hour day, but they drive like 12 miles because it's New York City, right? That's great for electrification. Sorry, Tom, but things like that.
I was going to completely agree with you about the Northeast, especially that New Jersey area. And you hit the nail on the head of like, there's just so many big major metro areas that are so close together up there that it makes a lot of sense out of the New Jersey area. The other area that I'd mentioned is Texas. We've had some success there out of the Dallas market. Right now, it's just been local Dallas, but we're looking to expand into Dallas, Houston, and then we've had some talks around Dallas to San Antonio, Houston to San Antonio, kind of that triangle down in Texas.
Great. Yeah, go ahead, Amelia.
I will just quickly mention the Southwest. So Terawat's corridor we're developing from LA to El Paso. So that includes New Mexico and Arizona. So certainly not just California by any means.
Awesome. This is great. I was really hoping that somebody would mention my home state of Ohio, but I don't think we're quite there yet. So maybe one day. But anyway, thank you guys so much for joining us today. That's going to wrap up our third battery electric vehicle unit session. Thank you everyone for joining us. In 2 weeks, we will be back here for our BEV unit workshop. So just a reminder to look for that invitation from ACT News. Come hang out with us then. We'll be around for 2 hours. Like Mike said, if you can't join for the whole thing, at least join us for a little bit. It'll be great. Great to see everybody. Also, remember to go back to the landing page and make sure that you take the quiz, runonless.com. Connect with us on social media. Stefan, if we can go to the last slide here, you'll see our social media handles are linked out there. And we appreciate all the time that you've spent here with us today. Very special thank you to our speakers for the time that you've spent with us today. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.